in the envelope. And after dinner, they went upstairs. They had like a really nice, passionate session. And she's like riding him until like he comes inside her. So they have a convo about how she's willing to do whatever he wants. And if he wants to hold her down, he can. And he's like, I don't want to do anything that you don't like. And it was just sad of how she thought of herself. She was a piece of meat. Like, that's what she'd been reduced to, like, believing herself to be. And this man viewed her as so much more, and she was so tainted, she can't see it. That's what's so sad. So Grayson tells her, listen, I want to see you every day. And she agrees, but she's like, but it's going to cost you. He says, well, how much? She says 10,000 pounds. He goes, done. So he tried to convince her to stay the night and that he'd make her breakfast in the morning, but she had to get home before that Skype call from Mark. But she did agree she's going to see him again tomorrow. So she gets home that night. Mark calls her. He wants to have Skype sex. Afterwards, he was like, I can't wait to get back to fuck you properly. And she thought in her head, you will never touch me again if this plan works out. So the next day, while working out, she gets a text from Grayson asking to meet her for lunch, and she says, she texts back yes, goes to meet him at his office. They leave. They go to an upscale hotel. He surprises her by taking her to the restaurant portion of the hotel, and she thinks that she initially gets really really nervous, because normally what happens at restaurants with Mark is he likes to finger her, he likes to make her get on her knees, suck his dick, things like that. Again, this type of stuff is sexy if you like the person, if you want this type of shit to happen. It's not sexy when it's coming from this mean, nasty fucking person. Nothing sexy about it. So she is like kind of on pins and needles because she's waiting for him to make her do something she doesn't want to do. So he notices like something's off, what's wrong? He asks her like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, I just want you to enjoy lunch. And she was like, what? And he's like, I just want you to enjoy your lunch. I want to get to know you. She's so stunned. And she was like, well, you know what? It's your money. Because she kept trying to keep that distance to make sure, listen, this is just about the money. We can't really involve the feelings because we can't do anything with this. Because the truth of the matter is, whether she hasn't told Grayson this, she's leaving. That's her goal. So she can't really get involved emotionally with someone, even though that shit's already happening. I mean, you vibe with who you vibe with. You know what I mean? So she goes to Grayson's place that night. He has a picnic set up for her in the library along with the chess game. And she gets uncomfortable again. And she's like, what is all this for? He's like, I thought you said I could spend the time however I wanted. And so they go back and forth. And she's like, yeah, but you're paying me for sex, like, he's like, you told me I could, however I want to spend my time with you, that's what I can do. So this is what I'm choosing to do. I want to have a picnic with you. I want to play chess with you. What we do after that is what we do after that. This is my time I'm paying for, right? And again, she's like, okay, well, that's what you want to do. Whatever. So they play, they have a great game, they eat, and of course they wind up making love. So she leaves and she gets a cab, and on the way home, she thinks she's probably fallen in love. Tears start to fall from her eyes because she knows she just can't afford to fall into those feelings because it's just too much at stake at this point. So the next day on her way to go see Grayson, poor girl, she gets hit, aka bumped, by a car. So she has a few scratches. I think the woman name was like Sheila. She wanted to take her to the hospital, but she wanted to go to Grayson because in her brain, this man done paid for this. I got to get there. So she gets to his the woman takes her to Grayson's house, and he was like, oh my God, what happened? And she told him. He's like, you want to go to the hospital? She's like, no, I'm okay. And he like goes and gets some ointment, puts it on her scrapes and stuff like that. He feeds her, took care of her. He takes her upstairs because he's like, you need to rest. Well, she thought he wanted to fuck. He was like, no. He's like, you really think I'm going to make you do that after what happened to you today? He's like, just relax. So finally she agreed. She laid down, and she agreed to let him take her home later. He fell asleep with her as well. Well, guess what happened? They overslept, and she wakes up frantic as fuck because it's almost time for that nightly Skype with Mark. So Lisa is spazzing. And she's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so he's like, don't freak out. I'll take you home. So he takes her home. She gets there in time. And then he left her, like, he was in the kitchen. And then I guess, curiosity got to him. He goes and he listens to the Skype call. And he can hear how he's talking to her. And it's just, again, it's not sexy when it's coming from someone who's like fucking mean and nasty. The shit isn't sexy when the guy tells you to touch yourself for me. Do that for me. Like, when the tone is so aggressive, it's not sexy. So he goes back. And he winds up staying the night because Lisa asked him. She's like, after the call, she came into the kitchen and she asked him, you stay the night? And he's like, sure, So the next day, she asked to, like, spend the whole day. They can do whatever he wants to do, no matter how cheesy it is. He starts questioning her again about why she needs the money. She plays with him. At first, she says she wants to get Mark a gift. And then she even lies and she teases him and says, I want to get a boob job. And Grayson loses it. He's like, please don't tell me you're going to mutilate your body for that man. And she's like, I'm just playing with you. So she gave him a great blowjob and she let him come in her mouth. And they fucked. And she hated thinking that, this is all going to be over in like 2 days. They're in the bath together and he tells her how he feels. He's like, Lisa, I'm falling in love with you. And she's like, don't say that. And he told her, you told me we could do whatever I want to do, and I want to tell you how I feel. So she starts kissing him to try and kind of reel him back into the sex. And he takes her to a pub that's closer to where he lives. He bought her like this beautiful scarf, and he had to like beg her to do it because she was like, no, don't. And he's like, no, I want you to have something to remember me by. Because I think because he knew she's probably leaving. This is the only logical choice of why she needs this money this fast while Mark's away, So they leave from the pub. They go back to, actually before they leave, he made the comment when he bought her the scarf. He asked her, he said, please just let me buy it. It'll make me happy to at least just pretend to be, like you're my girlfriend for the day. And I was like, oh, that's just so sweet. So they went back to his place. They were on each other as soon as they walked through the door. After their whole fuck fest, he was like, I'm not going to see you again, am I? And she's like, we still have tomorrow. And he was like, but after tomorrow. She was like, I can't. So even though she denies it, he knows. So she goes home. She gets ready for her last Skype with Mark. The next day, she goes to her favorite places in London, kind of like her goodbye to London. And she decides to go to the gallery just to check and see if they might have the paintings in storage. Even though he told her they were destroyed, she still was like, well, let me just go check. The assistant, Greta, gives her the key, and sure enough, they're back there with a sign on them that said not for sale. So she had Greta, when she took them out, she's like, because Greta was like, you want me to wrap them up? I can do that for you. And she's like, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, she has Greta look them up on the inventory sheet. Guess what? They were never on the inventory. So he never even tried to sell her paintings at all. And when Greta looked at the painting, she said, oh my God, these are beautiful. And so, again, her confidence has been completely knocked down. So when she hears that, she doesn't think that Greta really thinks that. She thinks, well, she's probably just saying that because I'm in front of her. And it's like, no, it's because you're an actual talented artist. And it's just like, ugh, he's just so evil. So when she leaves out, she gets a call from Mark. And the first thing she says is that you lied. He, of course, is like, what did I lie about? She tells him, I know about the paintings. But he's still going with that lie that they weren't good enough. And he just didn't have the heart to tell her. So then he tells her, I'll be home tonight. I miss you so much. So apparently he had wrapped up his business early. So then he's like, I got another surprise for you too. He's like, but you'll have to wait till I get back. So then he tells her, Andrew, who's the driver, he's going to be at the house in about an hour to bring you to the airport. I want you to come and pick me up. So she gets a cab home. She rushes to get her things together. When she goes outside, she sees Andrew. He had gotten there earlier. And he says to her, because he sees her with her bag, so he knows she's leaving. And he says, I didn't get here until 30 minutes from now. He says, do you need me to call you a cab? And she says, no, I'll get one at the end of the road. And he tells her, good luck, Miss Lisa. He never calls her that. He always calls her by her last name, which I can't remember at this very moment. But he always calls her that. And so that makes me happy, because that means he could see the bad treatment she was going to. That tells you something. He ain't even got loyalty to the man that pays him. He sees how horrible this man is to this woman, and he was happy for her that she was able to get the fuck away from him. And so she gets in the cab and she sends a text message to Mark that says, I'm leaving you. It's over. I don't love you anymore. Don't try to find me. Then she sends one to Grayson. It says, Mark's coming back and I won't see you tonight. I'm sorry. Goodbye and thank you for everything. So she took her phone. She took out the SIMS card when she got to this train station. Goes to the bathroom. She flushes it down the toilet. Then she takes the phone and she throws it in the trash somewhere else. And she crushes it as well. So she goes to Manchester first. And then she will eventually get to Cornwall. That's the destination. But she's going to do like a bunch of twists and turns. So it's like super hard for Mark to try and find her. There's an epilogue at the end of this book. Again, this is not the end of the series because this book has 2 books in the series. But it's a conversation between Grayson and Isabel. So it's been like a week or so after Lisa has left. And she sent Grayson one of her paintings. And he's talking with Isabel about it. And Isabel is like, whose is this? And she's like, he's like, it's Lisa's. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And she's like, would you be willing to like, let me make an offer on it? Like it was that good. Because you got to think, she's an artist. She knows good art. And he's like, no, I never part with this. And she's like, I kind of figured. And Grayson, she had asked him, did you see her this week? And he wouldn't admit it because he had told her he wouldn't tell anyone, and he was sticking to that. And Isabel, she was glad that Lisa had left Mark. She says apparently Mark has been, he had asked Isabel about, have you seen Lisa this past, that week that he was out of town? And, Isabel was like, no, I didn't see her. And she's like, well, where is she? And she's like, he's like, she's out of town with family. Well, if you know her, which Grayson's like the only other person that really knows her, he knows she doesn't have any other family. So that makes him happy because he goes, okay, she got away. And that makes him happy. Because when you love people, it's not a conditional type of a love. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to be with me, I don't love you anymore. He doesn't love her like that. It's a genuine love. Like, I want her to be happy. This is not a safe space for her. You got to think. If they would have gotten together, Mark would have tried to make their life a living hell. You know what I mean? Let's just be honest. That's what the fuck was going to happen. And she didn't want to put someone else in her problems, which is why she wanted to, like, you know what? I'll fuck this week, get the money, and then get the hell away and go live my life. So they also talked, again about how beautiful that the paintings were. And Isabel knew. She said, oh no, Mark knew what he was doing. He was sabotaging her career. That man knows art. He knows what this would have done for her. This would have blew her up. She would have been this massive star. Guess what that means? She doesn't need him. Even though she would have just loved him if he just treated her right. But he wasn't going to do that because he's just evil. So Grayson's just happy she's gotten away. So that's the end game. The next book in the series and the last book in the series, it is called Playing by Heart. So get that one in next week. What did you guys think of the end game? I thought it was extremely interesting. And I'm still mad at him for like inviting her to a swap party that she doesn't know about. It's like, listen, it's okay to, if you like those type of things, that's fine. Just get you someone who's into it. Don't try and force someone else into that lifestyle. Just like if someone's not into monogamy, don't try and force someone into monogamy. That's not what they're into, you know? Find you someone that is into what you're into. You shouldn't have to try and conform someone to what the hell you want them to be. You know? Let me know what you guys think of the book. Drop down in the comment section in the discussion board and give me your thoughts. Make sure you like and subscribe. I truly do thank you guys for your support. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.